We are live here at the Weather Network, streaming on our Weather Network app, desktop and YouTube channel, and of course our television channel. We are tracking severe weather across southern Ontario. Throughout the duration of this stream, we are going to be checking in with teams that we have out in our field, including our storm hunter Mark Robinson, as well as our expert meteorologists who are here in studio. We are going to be live tracking these storms. We have not one but two rounds of severe weather that we could potentially experience across southern Ontario. A wide risks of arrays of watches and warnings could be possible throughout the duration of this. We're going to check in now with our meteorologist to start at this stream off to get you better prepared, because we are approaching the rush hour commute. We know how the highways can get across the GTA, and with heavy rain, the situation could become dangerous as we progress into the evening. We're going to check in now with Melinda Singh and Amandeep Purwal, our meteorologists who are in the studio tracking the storms. Hello to the both of you. Now, we've already seen plenty of rainfall in some areas with some rainfall watches right now. Give us the lowdown on what's happening right now across southern Ontario.
Thanks so much, Victoria. Glad to be here with you. Now, when we take a look at the radar, we have been seeing throughout the duration of our Wednesday some pop thunderstorms in nature across the GTA, which has been bringing heavy amounts of rainfall. We saw some just north of Caledonia, along the shores of Lake Huron as well. This is a look at the current radar. Now you can see a widespread swath here, a few individual cells popping up now across the GTA, but now we're also going to be tracking in some severe weather as well. There's going to be two rounds. We're seeing round number one right now. Round number two is currently crossing the international states from Illinois into Indiana. It is a squall line pushing through. A bit more of a scientific word is a QLCS, which is basically a very strong system with gusty winds, and yes, you can even see those tornado warnings across parts of the United States. Now, we have been tracking a few of these severe thunderstorm watches that have just now been issued by Environment Canada.
Yeah, extreme southwestern portions of the province, all the way from Windsor to areas like London, we are under a severe thunderstorm watch, and the track that we're really looking at is the hazards like severe wind gusts upwards to 100 kilometers an hour possible, and a brief tornado. Now, what this means, it's not really going to be happening right now. It's through the late afternoon into the evening, and you can take a look at our thunderstorm risk. We have that red painted here on the map, so severe likely. So we could see those parameters come into play here, as well as large hail, strong winds, and the main hazard being localized flooding.
Thank you so much for that. We're going to check in with our field team right now. We have our storm hunter, Mark Robinson, out holding an umbrella, which I'm going to assume is indicating that it's already raining there. Mark Robinson, where are you and what are you experiencing currently? Mark, I can hear the wind. I can see you with the wind there. I can't seem to hear Mark right now, but I can see him out there with his umbrella and the wind howling out there.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay.
We got it.
There you go, Mark. I can hear the heavy, heavy rain there. The winds, that's another factor with this storyline, right? Are you going to be stationed here for the duration of this evening, or where's your plans to travel today?
No, the plans right now are actually to travel towards the southwest. We're actually headed down towards the Windsor region for those for that line of storms that's coming through. You can see it just south of Chicago, just on the other side of Michigan, and that's the storms that we're sort of aimed down towards and go to. But this one right here, I'm just going to take this down for a second, and you can get an idea of how strong this part of the line is. And this is the initial stuff. This isn't the really nasty stuff, but that's going to change. I mean, this is to give you an idea of how strong these storms are. This is just a baby storm. So we are going to see a big shift from These kinds of storms here, it's going to go quiet for a little while, and then that line's coming through. How far that line makes it, we're not sure, but man, I can tell you, it feels like a hurricane right now. I'm getting absolutely soaked. This is awesome.
Mark, one of the biggest factors associated with this storm is the heavy rain. Now, this rain is going to be coming down during many people's evening commutes. That's when it could start getting dicey on the roads for plenty of people traveling. Can you give any advice to those traveling on the roads? Because I know as a storm chaser, you're always out on the road in treacherous conditions.
Yes, I would say in treacherous conditions, so the wind just shifted around on me. There we go. The wind just shifted on me and just blew my umbrella all over the place. That's one of the big problems is changeable conditions. From one minute to the next, you might have the winds coming from one way. All of a sudden, it'll switch around on you. And one of course, the biggest issues that we run into is visibility. When you have rain like this and you got wind in there, you can't see much when you're driving. So everyone be very, very careful. Wow, that wind just went, and there goes my umbrella. Okay, so I'm just gonna let you know that right now, it feels like I'm standing in a hurricane. I think we've done this before. Well, we got full-on hurricane. It just feels like that. I am kind of glad that I brought extra clothes today. I'll send it back inside to you while I go get changed.
Stay safe out there, Mark. You saw Mark in the wind. The umbrella first broke and then he actually lost his umbrella. We're going to keep checking in with our storm hunter out in the field. Now, I want to bring back in our meteorologist because I do have a question from one of our viewers. And keep in mind, if you do have any questions to ask our meteorologist, feel free to do so in the comments section of this stream. Now, Amin and Melinda, we mentioned there's 2 rounds of storms. How many thunderstorm clusters are you currently tracking?
All right, Victoria, we'll take it back to the radar where we can see there was a few earlier this afternoon, especially when I was driving in. I encountered some on my way in too. There's a big one that was over Caledonia that really dumped quite a bit of rainfall the past few hours as well. So we're seeing this first cluster over here. It's kind of combined itself together as well. So from Kitchener all the way down to Niagara Falls, then you can see that next big push there along the shores of Lake Huron as well. And then another one down across southwestern Ontario. Keep in mind, like you said, this is going to be the first round. The secondary round we'll be tracking a little bit later. But we just wanted to explain to you why we are seeing this setup here. Now, Amin, when it comes to thunderstorm development, we have a few key ingredients.
Yeah, the first one is a trigger. So we saw that warm front that's continuing to make its way through. And also, we need lots of moisture. Now, the thing that we're dealing with right now, temperatures are quite on the warm side, but the humidity is quite on the uprise. So we have lots of energy to deal with as well, especially as that the warm front rather lifts north. And then we also have that cold front ahead of it that could be bringing in some instability to develop these thunderstorms.
Yeah, here's that moisture you were talking about as well. We're seeing a heavy amount. It's on the high rating as well. And this moisture is tracking in all the way from the Gulf of Mexico. So we are seeing quite a bit of moisture, and that is what Mark was saying. It feels like he's in a hurricane because of how moist the air is, especially when it comes to relative humidity. We also have another question here as well. That's the first one, actually. The second one here is, what will it look like in Brampton? Now, it's hard to say as of right now. Like I mentioned earlier, there was one when I was coming into work today earlier. But as we head into the next couple of hours, it looks like we'll be tracking a bit more of a cluster. The storms are now starting to come together. So it's one big cluster as they're making its way throughout the day. So it looks like as we head into around 6, 7, 8 p.m., just after the commute hours, we'll be tracking a bit of a cell over parts of the GTA, including Brampton. And then behind that, that's where that secondary big push moves in. This is currently stateside, and that's where we're really going to be watching the threat for tornadoes down across southwestern parts of the province.
Thank you so much. We'll check back in with you momentarily. Now, of course, the heavy rain could prompt flash warnings, flash flooding in many areas across southern Ontario. Do keep in mind, if you do see any flash flooding, turn around, don't drown. This is the phrase that we use to help remind you to stay safe. Avoid walking or driving in water. 15 centimeters of moving water can even knock you down. That's all it takes is 15 centimeters. Now move immediately to higher ground if you are in an area that could be of risk of flash flooding. Now, speaking of flash flooding, we're checking in with another field team that we have out there, Lauren O'Neill, our video journalist. She's in the Vaughan area, and this is an area that we could expect heavy rainfall. This could also lead to localized flooding, which is one of the risks associated with this storm. We saw Mark Robinson out there with his umbrella in the wind, in the rain. Lauren O'Neill, you are out there. Please tell me where you are and what conditions you've experienced. It's looking quite calm thus far.
Yeah, hi Victoria. It is quite calm thus far. We are experiencing just now, experiencing a little bit of sprinkles. They're fat, heavy raindrops. And as you can see behind me, the clouds are a little bit ominous looking, so we could be getting slammed quite shortly. I can tell you that as I was driving to the studio today, I got caught up in a heavy downpour along the QEW. You want to talk about localized flooding? That was, I mean, maybe 10 minutes of rain, and we were just like, shh, shh, shh. People were splashing water on every other car. So definitely a chance of that happening here. We're at a major commuter interchange here, Highway 400 and Highway 7 in Vaughan. If things get hairy, you know, you can expect a lot of delays around here on these highways as commuters try to get home before the storm hits too hard or in the aftermath of whatever system hits us here in Vaughan.
Thank you so much, Lauren. We're going to check in with you momentarily as well. I do want to continue with our live tracking with our meteorologists, Melinda Singh and Amandeep Purwal. Now, Lauren was mentioning the QEW getting dicey earlier. She's near the 400. That could also get dangerous later on. If you are driving, make sure you adhere to not just the speed, but the weather conditions. You need to make sure that you drive carefully because we certainly don't want people hydroplaning during this evening commute. Now, we're talking about these two rounds of storms. The first one, we're talking about heavy rain, but the secondary one, that seems like a more impactful storm, especially for the southwest. Can we dive more into that?
Yeah, you got it, Victoria. Here's our overall risk map that we have been projecting to the public, where areas across southwestern Ontario, including Sarnia, Windsor, severe likely storms are possible with that secondary round. So what does that mean? Well, we have the very strong atmospheric moisture, which is going to be leading to the potential for localized flooding. We've seen heavy amounts of rainfall as well. I'll get to that in a moment. The strong winds associated with the cold front, potential for the areas as well for large hail and 1 or 2 tornadoes as well. So when it comes to the development, we're seeing that warm front right now. That is what is going to help sustain the environment. But of course, along that cold front, temperatures will be dropping and you'll definitely feel a bit of a relief from the humidity as well. We were just taking a look offline and it looks like Environment Canada has expanded their rainfall warnings. Now, when it comes to that, it looks like different regions have a different criteria as well.
Yeah, let's first start off in areas including Hamilton. Stated upwards to 110 millimeters of rain is possible, especially with these storms they're quite slow moving. So when they're back building, that's when we have the potential of seeing locally higher amounts. So if you are driving and you're under one of these cells, you're going to be seeing a lot heavier rain, but areas including Kitchener, that's where we could see upwards to 75 millimeters of rain, and Radar Derived is mentioning upwards to 40 millimeters has already fallen, and it's quite quick as well. Now, areas off to the west, upwards to 80 millimeters of rain, so it's quite variable. We could see higher totals, and it's going to be quite a concern.
Yeah, this is a look here at current. So this is accumulation over the past 6 hours. This is just north of the Caledonia region. So when it comes to the legend, yeah, it's well over 75 millimeters of rainfall according to the radar-derived rainfall estimates, and even up north as well, just north of Kitchener. So you're really seeing the heavy amounts of rainfall within this system. Now, when it comes to some other of the parameters that we are going to be tracking, here's just a quick look at the probability of hail. So yes, it is quite likely as we head into the overnight hours, not as widespread. It's mainly going to be hit or miss, especially along the shores of Lake Erie as we head into that secondary round, more so in the overnight. And lightning as well, it looks like it's really going to be with that secondary push. So we're seeing a lot more of the ingredients come together and a lot more of that instability and the dynamics at play as well. I'm in for the secondary push.
Yeah, we're going to see quite a light show through the overnight. Something to really keep in mind and stay updated with any alerts on our app. But it's also going to be those winds are expected to pick up as well. So as we're tracking those storms through the later evening, one of the big threats could be the strong winds upwards to 100 kilometers an hour. And there is a thunderstorm, a severe thunderstorm watch rather, across extreme southwest portions of the province through the late afternoon and evening. But one thing to keep in mind is as the system slowly departs, we could be looking at very strong winds as we head through Thursday. So not much moisture to deal with, less humidity, but it's going to be those winds that we'll be picking up for the day tomorrow.
We'll also head over to Quebec, where a few rainfall warnings have also been in effect by Environment Canada. So we're seeing rain up to 50 millimeters through Thursday. They're also going to be tracking the same system pushing through, and that will be bringing in a lot more heavier rainfall across that region. So here it is, the cropping of Quebec. There's a chance for some light storms to push through as well throughout the day today. And then as we head into Thursday morning, that's where we're seeing a big push of that heavier rainfall. It's really that same system that we're going to be tracking into the overnight. That'll be pushing in for Thursday. So heavy amounts of rainfall are likely, but areas across the eastern townships, that's where we're really going to be tracking some of the ingredients coming together for the threat for severe weather across that region for Thursday.
Yeah, we have the severe likely painted across areas just south of the St. Lawrence, so including Sherbrooke. We could be seeing 1 or 2 tornadoes possible, as well as large hail, strong winds, and localized flooding. We're still dealing with that very humid air mass, so those ingredients can come together quite quickly. And then looking at how much rain that we could be expecting through Thursday, a similar story. We could see some potential localized flooding under these storms once again.
And not only across eastern Canada we're tracking active weather, but also across the prairies. We have been seeing watches and warnings across the region for days on end. We saw tornado warnings back on Saturday as well. We'll just quickly zoom in and talk a little bit about what's ongoing across parts of the region in Alberta. So there's a cell just a little bit east of Edmonton. It's bringing in quite a bit of rainfall as well. A few regions are warned here, so we're meeting that criteria. And then down towards parts of just including the Airdrie region, Crossfield as well, along the QE2. That's what we're tracking. A little bit of that threat for some severe warnings as well. But a widespread swath, especially to the Peace region of BC and in through regions of Saskatchewan and Manitoba as well. A little bit of some severe threat there too.
Yeah, we've been seeing several days of thunderstorms across the Prairie provinces, and as we head through this afternoon, we can start to see some instability kick off the foothills. We see some warnings as well, but the main concern as we head through late this afternoon will be across areas of southern Saskatchewan into Manitoba, where we could see the primary hazard of large hail start to really pick up. But other than that, the instability is there as that cold front starts to sink more to the south.
All right, awesome. I'm not sure if Victoria is around. We'll kick it back to her if she's there. But overall, though, we are tracking storms in Ontario, Quebec, and parts of the prairies as well into northern BC. The good news is we have that rain, but of course, the threat for lightning is also imminent. So we don't want a bit more of those as well. All right, heading it back to Victoria, where it looks like we got another question on board.
We're going to have our video journalist Connor O'Donovan out from Alberta joining us. We're getting him all set up right now, so we should have him with us momentarily. Melinda and Amin, there is a question that somebody asked. Is there going to be a tornado or flooding in Windsor? We saw that risk map there indicating in red the severe potential for the Sarnia-Windsor area. Is it too early to tell if we could potentially see a tornado or not?
You know, Victoria, that is a tough one because we're really watching the storms ongoing right now that is pushing in through parts of Indiana. Let's bring up the radar here and let's play it through. So we are seeing lots of that brown color on the screen, Victoria. That is tornado watches. So the NWS in the States, they're really providing the public a good swath region of tornado watches. And of course, the pinks on the screen is tornado warnings. So it's a very potent system. It's a QLCS, which is a very complex line of storms that will continue to develop right up along the cold front. So it has all those ingredients at play when it comes to areas when it will cross over the border into parts of Windsor and southwestern Ontario. It's still going to be a little bit in the daytime heating, so we will be losing a little bit of heat, but the daylight will still be there. So it might look like there's a chance down towards southern sections, but as it continues to track into the GTA, it looks like it will mainly be a bit of a severe thunderstorm threat, but still not ruling out the chance for tornadoes. And of course, Victoria, we have heavy rainfall too. That's going to be one of the main themes rather that we see today, because it's definitely on the high scale. You can feel it in the air. It's so sticky, it's so muggy. If you've curled your hair like you did earlier, you're starting to lose it. You have to recurl your hair many times because the humidity in the air is very strong.
Yeah, I can relate to that one as well.
You are correct. It is not a good hair day today. It is extremely humid out there. All right, thank you so much. That's our expert meteorologists who are now live tracking these storms as we continue into the evening. We're going to continue this live stream here on the Weather Network app, desktop, and YouTube. If you have any questions, feel free to ask us in the comments, and we will do our best to answer these questions. Now, it's not just southern Ontario where we're watching for storms. It's also parts of the prairies in British Columbia as well. We do have our field reporter out, Connor O'Donovan. He is our Alberta reporter, which you can see here on this risk map. Landspout tornado risks is the potential in Calgary. Now, Connor, where are you and what are your current weather conditions like there?
So I am currently standing at the top of the Bow River Valley in sort of southeast Calgary near Sikamee Lake. You can see some clouds building here behind me. We're seeing a lot of clouds building up to the north, right behind the camera, some really big towering cumulonimbus clouds rather that we associate with those thunderstorms. Just to the northeast of me here, I can see another big cloud there. We heard a peal of thunder just moments ago. So you can, not a ton of action yet, but you can certainly see it building. You can start to hear it. You can start to hear that thunder rocking as well. So things are getting started here. Not quite a lot of action in Calgary yet, but of course, as you mentioned, risk for those landspout tornadoes, risk of hail as well, and maybe some localized intense downpours. It doesn't take much when you're driving out there when it comes to the rain to really blur out your windshield. So make sure you're aware of this weather risk today as you're heading out and adjust your travel plans accordingly.
Connor, what are your plans for the rest of the afternoon and evening? Are you going to continue to monitor out there? Are you going to travel anywhere else?
Sorry, I don't know if you guys are still talking to me over there. I think I have lost you here, so I'll let you guys take it away from here and figure out my audio situation.
No problem. Thank you so much, Connor. We will check back in with you momentarily. It's not just southern Ontario, but Alberta there. Yes, he's not in the rain nor the wind or the severe potential yet, but we are still watching for watches and warnings. Watches and warnings, they could pop up throughout the evening and through the afternoon, regardless of whether you're on the west coast or in southern Ontario. Now, the difference between a watch and a warning, a watch means that we have the ingredients potential to have some severe weather. When there is a warning in place, that means the severe weather is happening right now and it is time to act. Now, here with more of our weather forecasting is meteorologist Melinda Singh and Amandeep Purewal. Now, do we have any watches and warnings currently across the country that you can share with our viewers here?
Yeah, for sure, Victoria. We do have some watches in place across southwestern Ontario. That is to give the public a bit of a warning of what's to come later in the evening that we are going to be tracking with that upcoming system. But let's take a look here as we zoom into areas across the GTA, which is areas like Brampton, Milton, along just north of the 401. The 407, you're seeing those darker reds. I'll just pause it here so we can take a quick look. We are seeing very heavy rainfall across this region, even pushing into areas like Mississauga, including Toronto International Pearson Airport. And then we'll slowly see it track into areas along the 401 as well. So if you are traveling along the 401, north or south in the next about half an hour or so, you may be slowing down because of the heavy downpours across that region.
Yeah, it's not going to be great. Make sure to slow down if you are underneath one of the heavy rain. But it's not only Ontario, but we're also looking at some severe thunderstorm watches in place across Alberta, as well as southern portions of Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and some cells have currently been warmed across Alberta.
Yeah, it looks like there's a few, just the ones northeast of Edmonton as well. That one's producing a bit of heavy rainfall and some gusty winds too. We're not really seeing that hail threat as of right now. And then there's one just approaching the QE2 near Owls north of Crossfield. So if you are in this area, you happen to be traveling as well, just make sure, because of course you're looking at slowdowns on the highway. But we are seeing 2 areas of concern as of right now, but looking like some non-severe storms across majority of the section. In 3 parts of Saskatchewan, Manitoba, western areas of Manitoba and eastern sections of Saskatchewan, there is a few storms starting to bubble up as well. So that's what we are going to be looking at as we head into the next couple of hours, well into the evening. Now, when it comes to our overall forecast for Wednesday, we're tracking the potential for some landspout tornado risk as well.
Yeah, it's all going to be triggered through the cold front that's slowly sinking down south. So there's 2 areas of focus, central Alberta as well as southern Saskatchewan, Manitoba. But that landspout risk, there is a possible chance. It's different than a funnel cloud. You usually see it from a storm cloud looking like a little bit of a swirl of a cone spinning, but once it makes contact, it could be a landspout. So make sure to keep your eyes on the skies. Something to really keep in mind as we're going through the afternoon to the evening, things could get quite unstable quite quickly.
All right, and so we did check in with Connor earlier. He's in Alberta as well. So any area here on the orange, we're tracking the threat for severe weather for Wednesday into the evening hours across parts of the prairies. Now, Victoria, back to you.
Thank you so much. We'll check in with the Alberta storms in just a few moments, but back to southern Ontario, where we're watching anywhere from non-severe to severe likely potential of storms from Windsor all the way to Hamilton, Toronto, Kingston, Cornwall, and Ottawa as we head through your afternoon and evening. Now, we just checked in with Mark Robinson not too long ago. He was out in Guelph. We saw you lose your umbrella earlier, Mark. Now you are back in the car. Is it still raining and windy like it was when you were out there in the storm?
Yeah, it's kind of misting rain right now. Just headed through London at the moment. That's why we're not moving very quickly. Lots of traffic through here. We're sort of looking to go through the next line of storms and punch through that, and then get to the other side where we will be waiting for that line of storms that's going to be coming out of the U.S. We've been talking about it all afternoon, all morning. That's the more severe line, because that's going to be the cold front itself. Right now, though, still on the warm front storms, it's not too bad. Driving's actually relatively easy at this point. One thing, though, you can't see any structure. So I can't point out, like, oh, that's this is this, this is this. Where I can quite often when you have those cold front storms and you can really see the organization of the storms. Right now, it's more of like I don't even know how to describe it, more like a hurricane type of thing, where there's just a lot of misty yuck with a little bit of wind in there. But yeah, if you're out and about and you're going through these lines, just keep in mind that there's going to be the conditions are going to be very changeable. So we're going to go from misty rain, not too much going on, right into potentially even almost blinding rain, strong winds, even some small hail depending on where the line you are. So that's really the thing we're going to be watching for with this first line. And then as we get into that evening, that's when we're going to get into that much more significant line, and that is likely where the thunderstorm watch is, which is where I am now, sort of from London all the way down to the Windsor area. So if you're in that area, be prepared for some potentially very strong storms late into the afternoon, into the early evening.
And Mark, right now it doesn't look too bad on the roadways. It looks like there's some rain, but it doesn't necessarily look like it's the worst driving conditions. Once you get into the thick of this storm, like the wind gusts you saw earlier that broke your umbrella, can you give our folks some driving tips for that? Because we are entering that evening commute.
Yeah, okay, first thing I'm going to say is give yourself some space. You'll notice the car that's ahead of me, he's at least 3, maybe 4 car lengths ahead of me. We're not moving at the full speed at all. Even better, he's out of the way now.
Thank you.
I like to give myself as much room as possible, so I've got lots of room to stop. Keep it a little bit, keep it to how you feel comfortable when you're driving. So if you're going too fast, if you're over driving yourself, don't do that. You'd rather get there than not get there, end up in a ditch or something like that. Because keep in mind, you can hydroplane with some of these heavy storms. Other thing is, if you don't have to go out, just don't be driving. Like, if you don't want to drive through this,
just don't drive. If you do get caught by the storm, find the next exit, find a pull over, pull off where you're safe, and keep going. One thing I will stress though, and this is one thing I want to stress, and I cannot tell you how many times this happens. Do not stop in the live lane underneath a bridge. Please do not do that. I see this all the time. It is spectacularly dangerous. It's a bad idea. If you're that worried about it, get to the next exit, pull off, wait at the side of the road off the main highways. So yeah, that's just, I love to stress that every single time because I do see it all the time. And if someone's coming up behind you, they can't see you, you're stopped in a live lane underneath a bridge, you're gonna get hit from behind. Best thing to do, get off the highway, let the storm pass because it will pass, and then continue on your journey.
Thank you so much, Mark. Those are great tips, and you should really listen to Mark Robinson, our storm hunter. He has been in numerous amounts of active weather and dangerous storms, and he's still here with us today. So he's the one that you should be listening to. We have another question from one of our viewers. If you do have any questions to ask us, feel free to do so in the comments section. We are live tracking these storms on our Weather Network app, desktop, and YouTube channel, and of course, our television channel as well. So stay tuned in with us here. Now, Melinda and Amandeep, will there be any tornado warnings in Barrie or Alliston? There's a few people asking about the Barrie area. Can we dive into what's going on there, and as we head into the evening, what they can expect?
Yeah, for sure, Victoria. Now, when it comes to tornado warnings, and especially across the secondary part, as we head into later today, that's where we're tracking the main threat for tornadoes. So not currently right now, later after 7 or 8 p.m., but when it comes to areas like Barrie and Alliston, what could we be expecting?
Well, looking at our thunderstorm map, we have extreme southwest portions of the province under the severe likely, so that's where we could see the highly likelihood of these parameters coming into place. So it's through the second line of storms that roll in, and with this, we could be looking at heavy rain, gusty winds, as well as frequent lightning. So even through this afternoon, we've seen quite a lot of lightning with this, but heavy rain has been the primary threat with the first round of storms that we're looking at.
All right, now let's take it back to the radar where things have actually intensified in the past 10 minutes or so. So here's a look currently the past hour. We showed you that same cell that was tracking over Milton, Brampton. Now it's heading over to the 400, and it's still packing quite a punch. You can see the heavy reds here on the screen. That's really indicating heavy downpours, and right now it's crossing over the 410. And areas along the 401 as well, and will slowly continue to track eastward and make its way into areas like Concord, Rexdale. It's over top of Pearson right now as well, into Vaughan, and then areas along the 400 too. So along from 401 all the way into Vaughan, we'll be tracking some of the heavier rainfall along that 401 portion as well. Down across parts of the Niagara region, we're seeing a little bit of a cell as well. Caledonia, another one. So we've seen heavy amounts of rainfall there. Another round is moving in right now. Woodstock, heavy rain, London, Glencoe, St. Thomas. It's a big cluster of storms across this region, and that's where we're tracking the strong storms currently, but we still have more on the way as we head later into your Wednesday evening.
Yeah, it's not only going to be the heavy rain, but the heavy rain has also going to be potentially impacting any loose roots that you may have. Excessive rainfall may not be the best if you have any plants outside or if you're gardening. That's definitely not great if there is excessive pooling for that. But we're going to continue to see that heavy rain move on eastward. And then, as you mentioned, Melinda, the second round will be bringing in that primary threat. But we've already seen heavy downpours well above 60 millimeters in some areas. And that continues as we head through this afternoon.
Yeah, here's a look at the past 6 hours as well. So you've already seen that heavy rainfall making its way eastward, now impacting parts of the west end of the GTA, and then areas along the shores of Lake Huron down towards Sarnia. This was actually tornado warned stateside earlier today, so we did see quite a bit of heavy rainfall as well in that region. It did make its way over to Wallaceburg. No warnings, thankfully, just a heavy threat for that rainfall. Areas just east of London too, and then I did mention the Caledonia region also. So we're seeing heavy amounts of rainfall in this region, and that's going to be one of the themes as we head into your day today.
Yeah, that's going to be not quite the best. And if Melinda continues to go through, you can see those reds and those oranges on the screen. So some areas are seeing locally heavier amounts, and the rest of the region's just around the 10 to 20 millimeter mark. But we have rainfall warnings currently in place in some areas. Let's take a look at our map here, and you can see mostly across areas of encompassing Kitchener all the way to St. Catharines to Goderich. You can really see that strip there, and that's rainfall totals ranging between 80 to potentially 110 millimeters through this event. So something to really keep in mind.
So we do currently have some severe thunderstorm watches down across southwestern Ontario. Those have been issued by Environment Canada. So exactly, this means that there's a potential for severe weather to happen. So stay alert, and that's where we're tracking with the secondary round pushing in just after 8 p.m. tonight across areas like Windsor and slowly making its way a bit more eastward. When we have a warning, we don't have any right now across southern Ontario. That's when it's time to take action in your area. You can head indoors, head down to the basement, especially if it is a tornado warning or a severe thunderstorm warning too. When it comes to what we're tracking that will be moving in, it is now crossed over from Illinois into Indiana. It's still packing quite a punch. You can see a widespread swath there in the brown color that is tornado watches in that region, and then down along that line there is a chance for those spin-up tornadoes because it is a QLCS. But overall, though, we are tracking this storm, and that'll be making its way across southwestern Ontario later today.
Yeah, we have all the ingredients in place in terms of thunderstorms. We have that warm front, the cold front coming in for the secondary round. We're under a very humid air mass as well, so we have the ingredients in place. And this is just an example of what a QLCS tornado means. Yes, it sounds quite intense here, but it's a line of strong storms that tend to be weaker and short-lived. But what we're really tracking, especially through later this afternoon to this evening, could be bringing in a threat upwards to 100 kilometers an hour in terms of the wind gusts and the potentiality for rotation as well as heavy downpours.
So right now we're seeing more of that rainfall making its way down towards the south. We're seeing areas across Mississauga, seeing that as well, Arundel, Streetsville as well, in a darker red. So we're seeing that heavy rainfall making its way eastward. It's become a bit more widespread too. So we have the moisture in the atmosphere. That's why we're seeing the heavy downpours. Yes, this could lead to potential for some localized flooding as well. So we're going to continue to monitor this as we head throughout the day today across parts. Areas in downtown Oakville as well, up just a little bit along the QEW as well. So I can imagine we're entering rush hour now, so a lot of slowdowns on some of the major 400 series highways. Down across Burlington to Waterdown, Dundas, and then up along the QEW as well, Grimsby, and a bit more just east of Caledonia and across the region of Mount Hope, Stony Creek. So we're seeing quite a bit of heavy rainfall as of right now across the majority of southwestern Ontario, including the GTA, and then we'll be looking at the main event occurring later today, depending on how it tracks into parts of southern Ontario.
Yeah, let's give a little bit of a summary here of what we're tracking. Active weather across the east, even into the west as well. We have thunderstorm risks across both areas. Let's first take a look across the west, what we're currently tracking. Some storms have also popped off across the foothills. We have watches in place as well as warnings in some cells across Alberta. Even a land spout risk as we head through this afternoon. But this threat stretches all the way from Alberta to areas just south of Saskatchewan into Manitoba, where the primary threat we're really looking at is that large hail and that strong winds. And this is all thanks to this cold front. As it's sinking down south, it's bringing a little bit of instability. We have some energy to work with, and that's going to even continue as we head into Thursday. So it's been a couple of days of thunderstorms that we've tracked across the prairies, not bringing much of in terms of heavy rain we're looking at through the weekend. Significant rain in place Friday into Sunday. So look at areas even just south of Alberta. We're looking at rainfall totals well between 50 to 75 millimeters of rain. Good for agriculture. It's also good for the fire danger rating as well. So it's a great improvement for areas that need it the most. But across Ontario right now, we're just looking at rainfall warnings in some portions of southern Ontario. The main threat for some severe thunderstorms is really through the later part of the evening that we could start to see some severe possible storms pop off.
All right, Vic, back to you in the studio.
In with our expert meteorologist in a few moments. We're going to head to our field team as well. I do want to reiterate some of the risks associated with these storms as we progress into your evening and the overnight hours. Localized flooding, strong wind gusts, large hail, and even the possibility of tornadoes as we head further into the evening. What is a severe thunderstorm though? Well, the criteria means 90-kilometer-an-hour or greater wind gusts. We saw Mark Robinson earlier out in the thick of some of those wind gusts at the time. He described it as hurricane-like winds. We could also expect hail in a severe thunderstorm, upwards of 2.5 centimeters or larger in diameter, as well as heavy rain, and that means we could expect localized flooding. Now, if you do see any flooding in your region, do not walk or drive through any moving water. Move to a higher ground if you can, and certainly be extra cautious as at nighttime. Stay away from any rivers or creeks as well. An area where we are potentially, or we could potentially see some flooding is where our field team is stationed. Lauren O'Neill, our video journalist, is near the Vaughan area, near Highway 400, I believe. We're going to check in with Lauren here now. Lauren, you now have your hood on your raincoat, and I'm assuming that means it's raining there now, correct?
Oh yeah, I'm getting drenched now. I've had to put the base of my microphone into my coat to protect it. It's definitely coming down. Not the worst I've seen, but steady, consistent. And I mean, it's been about 10 minutes and this beautiful rain jacket is already soaked through. So,
Lauren, what are you seeing?
I might have to bust out the umbrella.
What are you seeing around you? There's a highway. Is that Highway 400? It looks like it's moving slowly, potentially.
Yes. Yeah, that is Highway 400, and it's coming up to the interchange to go onto Highway 7. We're actually behind a Dave & Buster's with a great view here of the traffic. It's going a little bit more slowly than I would normally expect it to go at this time of day. I mean, visibility can drop, as you all know, in seconds. I think people are exercising caution. They are listening to tips from our storm hunter and others, and being cautious. I know that alerts keep going out, so people are heeding some of that warning, and they're not speeding around like crazy, at least, which is good to see.
That is great to see. Luckily, no accidents behind you, but of course, as we head into the evening commute, things could be a little bit more dangerous. Lauren, today, Melinda and Amin and I were talking about how it's been so humid. It's not a good hair day. What are the temperatures like out there? Are you cold? Are you hot?
I can tell you, I was listening to you on my earpiece and I was like, oh, I need to get in on this conversation because this is the worst day for hair. It's not only humid, it's gotten a little bit cooler, but it still remains humid. And like, when I take this off, it's just, yeah, it's no go, no good, no good. Not a good hair day. I would advise anyone with long hair to stay indoors or wear it up. That would have been a good thing for me to do today.
Great tips there, Lauren. We'll check in with you momentarily. Stay safe out there as you head into further on into your day. It could get a little bit more messy out there. We do currently have watches in place anywhere from Windsor up towards London. We are continuing to live track these storms here at the Weather Network, live streaming here on our Weather Network app, desktop, as well as our TV channel, and of course YouTube. Feel free to ask us any questions. We will answer them to the best of our abilities. Now, Melinda and Amin, it looks like things are starting to get going with these storms. Lauren now is in rain near the 400. Do we have any further updates on the activity of this severe potential storms?
Oh yes, Victoria, we definitely do. We're continuing to track this very dense system that is bringing the heavy rainfall across the region. It's just slowly making its way south of the international airports in Pearson and Mississauga there, Streetsville, Arundel, that good chunk of Mississauga. You're still seeing that heavy amounts of rainfall all the way into Etobicoke. So that's a very good stretch there along some of the major highways. Like you mentioned, Lauren, now we're seeing that rainfall along the 400 as well where you are. We're not seeing the dense reds, but we are seeing yellows. And that's still indicating more so on the moderate side when it comes to the rainfall. Oakville as well, slowly starting to make its way out in terms of the overall rain threat. And we're going to continue to track that. Now, when it comes to areas of just north of the GTA, like Arthur, Hanover, Markdale, we saw heavy rainfall around maybe like 20 minutes ago, and now things are starting to dry out across that region. So we're not seeing the more heavy, potent rain across northern sections of the area, but overall we are seeing it mainly down southern sections and across parts of southwestern Ontario. Overall, we're still seeing some heavy rainfall in through parts of southwestern Ontario. All right, Amin, looks like we're losing my microphone. I'll get you to start talking here because they can't hear me.
Yeah, we're going to continue to see that heavy rain. It's still over the area that you mentioned across, looking at the radar from Brampton all the way to areas like North York, extreme southwestern portions of the province. We're still continuing to deal with that heavier bulk of rain here, and that's going to continue to move on eastward. So if you're underneath one of these storm cells here, you're going to be seeing some heavier downpours. Localized flooding is possible, as well as ponding and pooling. And right now, currently, we don't really have any warnings in place in terms of severe thunderstorms. Rainfall warnings are quite the theme here, but let's take a look at our thunderstorm risk map here. We have that severe likely painted across extreme southwestern portions of the province. So the main threat with this is a localized flooding, once again, 1 or 2 tornadoes, as well as strong winds and large hail. Now, we do have that watch in place, and that's for later this afternoon into this evening. Other than that, we're looking at a stretch of non-severe storms pushing all the way to areas of Quebec throughout the day today, but it's going to be quite a different story heading into tomorrow, because the same system and that same humid air mass will continue to push on eastward, where we do have that severe likely possible just south of the St. Lawrence, encompassing areas of Sherbrooke, the eastern townships, severe possible as well. So we could be looking at the same hazards, heavy downpours, large hail as well, and strong winds with
I have
this.
a question
Now,
I can ask Melinda and Amin.
it does look like we have a question from Victoria.
Yes, I do. We're getting quite a few questions asking about north of the GTA, for example, Port Carling, Dorset. People are asking, will the second line of storms reach these regions north of the GTA?
All right, that question is for us, Victoria. Sorry about that, I was just changing my microphone. But yes, so the secondary line reaching, can you just repeat that again for me?
People are asking about north of the GTA, for example, Port Carling, Dorset, perhaps even cottage country in general.
All right, so those areas, it's mainly going to, the energy will most likely be dying down by the time it reaches those areas across cottage country, eastern Ontario. We still have a yellow in place across those regions, and even north of Prairies Sound, we don't really have that threat there because the system will be tracking into areas of Quebec. You may be seeing the only hazard will be heavy rainfall across that region. So overall though, not seeing the big threat there. We're going to be losing daytime heating. That's really the instability that fuels and sustains those storms. So that's why areas southwestern Ontario, as that system crosses over the international border, we'll see those imminent threats. But as they head into the yellow region, that's where we're really starting to lose the dynamics at play as well. All right, let's take a quick look here at the overall radar, what's ongoing once again across the region. So we're still seeing this cell here, Amin, that is slowly sinking down south, but it's still packing quite a punch.
Yeah, one thing to note, areas across the north, that precipitation has fizzled out. It was quite heavy before, but we're still looking at 2 main areas, especially across areas along the 400 and the 410. You could continue to be dealing with those heavier downpours, but extreme southwestern portions of the province on the back end, heavy rain is going to be quite the theme here for you. So we do have some rainfall warnings in place, and the heavy downpours are going to be quite a theme even into the overnight here. This is a look at the rainfall warnings in place. So these areas have different amounts of rainfall potential, extending well between 80 millimeters to upwards to 110, and we've already seen a very heavy amount of rain already in some pockets. Take a look across the radar estimated rainfall. This is from the last 6 hours, so you can see those heavier reds on the screen. That's well over 75 millimeters of rain, so that's quite a concern if you're underneath that downpour. Could be creating some damage to trees, pooling and ponding. Not great in terms of visibility, but there's also been lots of lightning associated with these cells as well.
All right, Victoria, now back to you. But I just wanted to add in here that I wouldn't be surprised if some of those rainfall warnings get extended a bit more further east too, as we're seeing a lot of that bulk of that rain pushing in across eastern parts of the GTA.
When we look at our risk map, one of the buzzwords we see on here is tornadoes. 1 or 2 tornadoes could be the potential here as we progress into your late hours of the night. Now, severe likely potential of this, Windsor through Sarnia. That's where we currently have thunderstorm watches in place. What is a tornado warning? When you have a tornado warning issued, you'll get that on your Weather Network app. You'll get that as an alert on your phone. This is issued by Environment Canada. It's when a tornado has been reported, or when there's evidence based on the radar from reliable spotters. There are storm chasers out there that are actively monitoring whether they can spot tornadoes or not. This gives us more clarity on whether to issue the tornado warning. Now, someone who is all too familiar with tornadoes is our storm hunter, Mark Robinson. Mark, you're the perfect person to ask questions about these tornado-like storms. You've been chased by tornadoes in your past here. What is it? Oh, we may lose Mark here and there. He has some spotty connection. He is in a rural area. Mark, if we do lose you, don't worry about it. We'll come back to you momentarily. I do want to ask you, are you headed toward any places where you could potentially see the potential of tornado watches pop up through the evening hours?
Yeah, absolutely. Right now, headed down towards Chatham, so that gives us the option of going down towards Windsor or up towards Sarnia, because Lake St. Clair is sort of in the way, so I have to sort of go around either way. But yeah, the thing that I'm watching really closely is where and when we see the where we're going to see those storms begin to come through. And I can tell you though, like if you look at the front of the car right now, you can see such a shift, such a change from what it was earlier. We're actually beginning to, our temperature on the, I can actually see the temperature on the car beginning to rise. We are seeing a real, the rain not as bad at all, just sort of a misty rain, not much else other than that. And this though is kind of the, and you're gonna hate me for saying this, the calm before the storm. And that would be because we're now getting into that, very humid air mass, very warm air mass, all in place. And when that low begins to push through with that cold front attached, you're going to have all the dynamics in place. So we've got the fuel. Now we need the winds doing what they need to do to get those storms to potentially spin up. And that is what we're going to be watching very closely. These systems are usually very, very dynamic, so you really have to sort of wait and watch these things as they come in. And I will be watching the storms as they come through the U.S. because this is a line of storms that's sort of south of Chicago, coming into Michigan now, going to make its way across Michigan and then into southern Ontario. It could be late. But I'm thinking it's going to come through before it gets dark. Probably after I finish this live stream, so we might have to come back to a live stream later when this begins to come through. And the big $1 million question is going to be, will that line hold together as it makes its way across southern Ontario? I'm not sure. I don't want to say either way at this point because I haven't had a chance to look at the models in quite a few hours. So you probably have a little bit better handle on what this storm is going to do, or what these storms are going to do as they make their way into southern Ontario a little later on today.
Mark, what are some of the visual indicators that you watch for when you're actually trying to look for a tornado?
Spinny things. No, I mean, I joke. I joke a little bit. But there's sort of a bunch of different things. That's actually a really big question. Because we can have what we call QLCS, so quasi-linear convective system. So it's just a big line of storms is the best way to think about it. And you can get little spin-ups on the front side of that, on the front edge of that storm. And I've seen this more than once, and they can be very large and almost, they can be quite strong, these tornadoes. And what you really are looking for is that, that classic look. But what I often do is look up into the cloud base, and if I'm seeing that spin, and especially if I'm seeing what we call a laminar flow. Now, it's a very complicated term, but it really means smooth-sided funnel. If that funnel is nice and smooth on either side, if that cloud is very smooth as it beginning to look like that classic tornado look, that tells me that we have very strong motion and likely at least, if not a tornado, at least a very rapidly rotating funnel cloud. When we are talking about supercells, those are the big ones that really produce the violent, or the potential to produce violent, very strong tornadoes. That's a little bit of a different situation. Those ones are usually isolated on their own. And again, you're still looking for spinning things, but you can often see a very solid wall cloud. And usually that wall cloud will be outside of the rain. In Southern Ontario, sometimes you'll get that rain sort of wrapping around, but quite often it's sort of away from the storm. It looks like it's away from the storm, but it's actually sort of the center of where the storm is spinning and sort of the focus of the whole thing. That's what I have to look for. I know that was a bit long-winded, but you know, that was a big question, really good question though.
Thank you so much, Mark. Every time I see Mark out in the field, I feel like I need to give a disclaimer. Do not try this at home. Do not try to drive out in some of these storms like Mark is doing. Your best bet is to stay home, stay safe. And we have plenty of risks associated with these. We've been talking a lot about the flood potential. We've been talking about strong winds, but there's other factors too, like hail and even lightning. I'm going to bring back our meteorologists, Amandeep and Melinda, to talk more about some of the risks associated with this storm. We always use the term when thunder roars, head indoors. And I think people can remember this phrase as we continue in through the evening hours across Southern Ontario, right?
Absolutely right, Victoria. Now, some of the main hazards here, we've already been seeing it, is the threat for the heavy rainfall and the risk for localized flooding. Strong winds are also going to be a concern. We'll mainly see that later on with the secondary push and behind that cold front, especially as we head into your day Thursday, where some gusty winds are possible too. Large hail, it looks like it's going to be a bit of a concern as well, a bit more on the spotty side, and of course, the threat for tornadoes as well. And let's head over to Western Canada, where we are tracking some severe thunderstorms across that region.
Yeah, we have about 2 cells that we're tracking just across areas of northeast of Edmonton. This is becoming more of like a stationary line of thunderstorms, and this is warned for upwards to nickel-sized hails and very strong winds, as well as heavy downpours. So if you're underneath a cell, you could be looking at torrential rain. It could be quite quick and heavy, and this could change conditions quite a bit, and lots of lightning associated with this as well. And the storm cell across the south, it missed Calgary. It does look like not much that Calgary wasn't warned. It's more areas just east of the city, and that's also warned for some upwards to nickel-sized hail as well as some strong winds. So they're very scattered in nature. They could form in a line depending on what we're going to be tracking, but areas across southern Saskatchewan into Manitoba, we're not really looking at any cells warned at the moment. We could be looking more of that instability starting to kick off as we head into late this afternoon into the evening, and the main hazard that we're tracking with this would be the large hail possible.
Yeah, here's a look at the overall risk map that we have here. So we're tracking the threat for a strong wind gust, large hail, and the threat for a landspout tornadoes as well as possible, mainly across parts of southern Alberta. But you can really see here the orange on the screen extending along the QE2 upwards to parts of northwestern Ontario. So that's where we're tracking the more severe possible storms as we continue into our day Wednesday. Now, overall, though, as we head into the weekend, we are tracking heavy amounts of rainfall, and that's going to be targeting parts of Alberta, including the city of Calgary, areas throughout central Saskatchewan too. So a lot of heavy rainfall is on the way for the weekend, and a cool down as well. And temperatures for Calgary, you will be around 10 degrees below seasonal. This is a bit more reminiscent of March temperatures and not so more so for June. All right, I'll take it back to Ontario. Let's quickly look at the radar before we take it to Lauren, who's outside in the fields just near the 400. There is this heavy amounts of rainfall that we have been tracking. Woodbridge getting into some of it as well. King City along the 400, Etobicoke, you're now seeing the heavy downpours. It's out of Pearson. We're still seeing light rainfall. Brampton too, light rainfall. Port Credit, heavy rains. That's the darker reds on the screen. Very heavy rainfall, especially when it comes to rainfall rates. Definitely over 10 millimeters an hour in some parts, and that's just on the low end as well. So quite a bit of rain in the forecast. You can see this dry slot here behind it, Milton up towards just south of Cambridge, seeing not really much precip. And when we take it down along the QEW, we're tracking in some of the heavier pockets of rainfall as well. Hamilton, Grimsby down towards Beamville, Paris as well. And of course, areas across southwestern Ontario too. That's where we're tracking some of the heavy rainfall, but yes, getting a little bit of clearing in through parts of Windsor and Chatham. All right, Victoria, I see you have the rainfall map there as well. So those are still continuing and even across parts of the Nickel Belt region too.
Yeah, throughout the duration of this stream, we've just been watching these rainfall warnings expand. Currently, rainfall warnings from Godrich down to Grand Bend, spanning towards Kitchener, further towards the Golden Horseshoe as well, Niagara, Hamilton, and just east of Simcoe County. That's where we're currently watching heavy rain. And someone who is in some of this heavy rain is our video journalist, Lauren O'Neill. Lauren, you are near the 400 in the Vaughan area. Since we last checked in, it sounds like it's raining a lot heavier there. What are you experiencing now?
It is raining heavier. I've had to bust out another accessory here. I've got my trusty Weather Network umbrella. It's keeping me nice and dry under here, but I can't say the same for anyone who is not under the proximity of my umbrella. It is really starting to rain heavily. As you can see behind me, the 400 is moving pretty slowly, slower than it normally would be for this time of day, and I do think that people are continuing to heed the warnings of everyone, meteorologists, experts telling them, you know, slow down. The cars that aren't slowing down, I can tell you that there is a visible trail of water being splashed around them. I don't know if there's a word. Is there a word that anyone knows of for what happens when a car splashes you? Because they're all doing it to each other. Every car is splashing every other car, and the ones that are going really fast and the heavy ones, like the trucks, they're splashing big. It almost looks like they've got their own private misting stations on top and below their vehicles.
Lauren, you actually bring up a good point there. I don't know the actual terminology of this, but have you ever been driving and you have a truck driving past you and all of a sudden you get a huge swath of puddles of rain in your windshield? You cannot see anything in front of you. That can certainly become a dangerous time when that happens. Have you ever experienced that yourself too?
It's funny you ask, Victoria, because I did just experience that earlier this afternoon when I hit some bad weather on the QEW. You know, people driving in the opposite direction were splashing water up on my car and vice versa, I'm sure. But, you know, every couple of seconds you just have this thwack of water hitting the windshield and complete visibility disappearance. So it can be really scary when that happens. I would say if you are driving opposite another lane of highway traffic, maybe try to get into the right lane to avoid that, because it is not fun when all of a sudden you lose visibility, when visibility is already low. And just the sheer force, I guess, too, of getting a thwack of water from a transport truck, it almost rocks your vehicle if you're in a smaller vehicle as well, too. So not a great day to be out driving, an even worse day to be out with your hair down.
You're 100% correct. All right, stay dry as best as you can out there. We're going to check in with you momentarily. We're talking about driving through these conditions. You saw behind Lauren, traffic slowly starting to slow down on Highway 400. I can only assume across any major highway across the GTA where there is heavy rainfall, we are going to expect slowdowns. So make sure you drive very cautiously. If you do find yourself driving through the rain, make sure that you slow down. Turn on your headlights. That way that you can remain more visible, and also give vehicles space. We saw Mark Robinson driving out there. He was giving plenty of space in case he needs to brake suddenly, and also beware of hydroplaning. We talk a lot about driving through snow and how dangerous it can be, but sometimes I like to compare that to driving through heavy rain. That can be just as slippery, just as dangerous on any of our major highway routes. Now we're going to continue tracking some of these storms across southern Ontario, but Melinda and Amin, I do have a couple questions from viewers here. I think a lot of people are really curious about the tornado situation. That's not a word that we use lightly around here at the Weather Network, so I think when people hear this, they get concerned. Where are the places that could see the most potential for perhaps a tornado-warned storm throughout this evening?
All right, I've actually had the questions pulled up on our screen here for you, so don't gotta worry about that. The question here is, will we get a tornado warning in Wallaceburg? Now, This is a bit of a tricky question, especially when it comes to the dynamics.
Yeah, our meteorologists here, we've painted a thunderstorm risk map, and you see the red, you see the orange and the yellow, but the severe likely is the possibility where we could see the highly chance of seeing 1 or 2 tornadoes, strong winds in the cards, as well as localized flooding. And it's not currently a threat. It's through later this afternoon to this evening, and even Environment Canada has issued a severe thunderstorm watch for those hazards. And they have mentioned a chance of seeing 1 or 2 tornadoes, but it's really depends on the area. If you are underneath that watch area, something to just really keep in mind. Until then, we're still looking at a chance here. And our next question that we do have, is there a chance for the Greater Toronto area to see a risk of a tornado today? Now let's take it back to our risk map. We were under the orange, so severe possible is in the cards, but it doesn't look like we have the threat of seeing a tornado. Heavy rain is the main concern that we are currently dealing with right now. And here's a look at our future precipitation forecast. So as we continue to go through late this evening, yes, you could be underneath some heavy downpours, but look at that clearing through the evening. The next round of storms we're tracking through the overnight. So lightning, you could hear some rumbles of thunder that may wake you up. But in terms of a tornado risk, it's quite negative, and lightning will just be the concern as well as the heavy rain.
I really want to pinpoint here, this model is actually doing quite a good job at what we could be expecting that lines up with our forecast for tonight. So as it moves through actually I'll just zoom it out so you can see a bit more further into parts of Michigan. So there is that strong line of storms and through many states in the United States. It will look like it might cross over the border into Windsor around 7-8 p.m.-ish. And then you can just see the darker yellows on the screen, the reds, the purples too. That might indicate a little bit of hail associated with that as well. And you can see as it translates over into the GTA, you're starting to lose a bit more of those darker colors. You're seeing a bit more red, a bit more yellow, so it's really losing its energy, especially as it heads into the overnight hours. And then we're really going to be tracking just more so of that heavier rainfall threat, especially in through parts like Prairies Sound, where another rainfall warning is in effect. And then behind it too, we could be looking at some wraparound showers possible for Thursday, but really it's going to be in through parts of northeastern Ontario, sections of Quebec too, seeing more so the heavy rainfall as we head into our day. Thursday, here's a look at some of the rainfall warnings for that region across Quebec, parts of the Nickel Belt too. But as we head into late Thursday evening, that's where we're tracking the threat for more so severe storms and a tornado potential too across eastern townships.
Yeah, we're still dealing with that same low pressure system and tapping into a very warm air mass here. And this system is going to continue to move on eastward. So areas like Quebec, as Melinda showed through the risk map, along this warm front, we could start to see some thunderstorms pop up, but just along the cold front, that's where we could see the severe possible storms really potentially impact areas just south of the St. Lawrence, the eastern township. So this does include Sherbrooke here, large hail, strong winds, as well as localized flooding will be quite a concern. It's the same amount of moisture that we've been kind of dealing with across southern Ontario.
A quick little check-in before we head over to Victoria. Still seeing heavy rainfall, Port Credit, Long Branch, Etobicoke, now spreading into areas of Toronto, High Park, York. You're seeing some of that heavier rainfall move in, and it won't take too long before we see the heavier, darker reds impacting parts of the region and may even spill into areas of downtown Toronto. All right, Victoria, back to you.
With us here at the Weather Network as we continue to live track these storms. We are live streaming currently on the Weather Network app, our desktop, as well as our YouTube channel. Feel free to ask us any questions in the comments section because we can answer those to the best of our abilities. Now we're starting to get visuals in from across southern Ontario with some of these storms. Now heavy rain, that is one of the things that we have been certainly emphasizing and talking about. This was in Windsor. You can see the heavy rain there. Now this is in Milton, and you can see the rain shifting with that wind. That's another topic of conversation. As Mark described earlier when he was in Guelph, he described it as hurricane-like winds. Ancaster, we are now starting to see localized flooding. I highly recommend you do not walk through that water. If you are near any creek or stream, stay away to the best of your abilities. Do not walk or drive through any moving water. Now, if you are driving, that's another thing to be aware of. Hydroplaning, that certainly could be one of the factors associated with this, or one of the risks associated as you drive. And we know how the highways can get. Any major 400 series highways always gets traffic on a normal day. Add in rain, add in reduced visibility, and even the potential for hail, and that certainly makes for dangerous travel conditions. Now, we saw that localized flooding in that Ancaster area. We do have rainfall warnings currently in place throughout this stream. We've just been slowly watching them expand. Right now, currently rainfall warnings through Grand Bend, Kitchener, Hamilton, as well as Niagara. This is even pushing further towards Port Colborne since I last checked on this. Now, here's a look at where we're watching for severe potential storms. We currently do have thunderstorm watches in place anywhere from Windsor to London. We could certainly start to see that expand as we progress through the evening hours of tonight and through the overnight as well. Now, if you are in a watch, what does that mean? It means that we have all the ingredients for the potential of severe weather to begin to form even worse. Now, you need to stay alert if you do have a watch in your area, because that certainly could be upgraded to a warning. When you do have a warning, that means severe weather is currently happening right now, and it is time to act. Now, a person, I should say, that has been in through any type of severe weather you can possibly imagine is our storm hunter, Mark Robinson. Now, Mark, we've been checking in with you throughout this live stream. You've been in strong winds, you've been in heavy rainfall, now you're currently driving. Where are you headed?
Well, headed to the southwest, and I want to point something out. Take a look at what I'm wearing. I've got my sunglasses on right now because we're into blue sky. I'm about just coming up on Chatham along the 401, and yeah, this is the other side of the storm. So if you're in the GTA and you're sort of going, what is going on? Yeah, that is how fast the conditions can change. And have been changing. We're actually seeing the temperature begin to rise here. You could actually get a little thermometer on the car, and that is just because we are getting into that strongly heated air mass between. I'm going to say about halfway across Michigan, where that line of storms is, and all the way here, just past Chatham, just to the east of Chatham. All of that, you know, it's basically just heating away and getting ready. You know, just all that fuel is building up down here. So when that line arrives, it's going to be tapping into high octane fuel. On top of that, we're going to see a lot of wind shear. So when you have those two things added together, you can get supercell storms. And supercells do not mean that it's just a big storm. What it actually means is the core of the storm, the center of that storm, is spinning, rotating. And that's what we're going to be watching for. Very closely, as you know, watching this very closely as this begins to come towards us. How close to dark it's going to be, that is the million-dollar question. And of course, the next million-dollar question is the storm, are those storms going to survive? Are they going to be able to continue as they work their way east? That's a tricky question. Some of the models have been saying yes, some have been saying no. So I would say, you know, keep an eye on the Weather Network. We're going to be out and trying to show you, you know, what these storms are like, how strong they are, and of course we will be watching for the potential for the most significant type of severe weather, and that would be tornadoes. Where exactly those are going to be, it's going to be a little bit tricky. We can't really say at this point, but it's definitely something that I'm going to be watching for as this line begins to make its way into southern Ontario.
Mark, it's been a little bit over an hour, and it feels like it's been quite the roller coaster ride with you. We originally saw you lose your umbrella earlier as it broke in those strong, what you referred to as hurricane-like winds. Then we saw you driving through some pretty heavy rain, and now you're in sunshine. It just goes to show the roller coaster ride that our viewers could also experience as these storms continue through the evening and overnight hours. Now, Mark, another risk associated with this storm is hail. You've been through many different types of hail sizes. If someone does experience hail, can you give them any tips on how to stay safe through that?
Yeah, get in shelter. I mean, like, honestly, you know, when you're talking about hail, you know, it starts to hurt when they get to about toonie size, and it starts to do damage when they get to golf ball size. I've been in baseballs, and that took out the front windshield of the Weather Network car a few years ago when we were down in Texas. That gives you an idea of how, you know, how damaging this kind of hail can be. Do we see baseball hail in southern Ontario? I used to say, no, we don't see that anymore. Or we simply don't see that. That is actually changing. We actually saw baseball-sized hail near Petrolia a couple of years ago. So it definitely has happened. Some of these storms can get strong enough to drop those kind of, you know, gigantic hailstones. If I'm in hail like that, you know, I want to get out and show you. I want to pick up some pieces. I actually have a helmet I put on to make sure that I'm not getting beamed in the head by it, because I can tell you, when you get to golf balls, it will leave bruises and welts. So if you get into giant hail, you're in a car, stay in the car. You know, make sure, let the car get bashed up. It doesn't matter. If you have a sunroof, and I'm just going to get you to point up here. See our sunroof here? But I want you to look what's on top of that. That is a hail shield, because this big sunroof right here, unfortunately, could get taken out by baseball, or excuse me, golf ball sized hail. So I want to make sure I keep our little Mitsubishi car here as safe as possible. So I do have a hail shield on the car, and of course I have a hail shield for myself. But for everybody else, stay in your car, stay inside, let the hail go by, then go out and check out how big they are. Don't try to pick them up while the hail is ongoing.
Thank you so much, Mark. Stay safe out there. However, it looks like you're in the calm part of the storm right now, but I know once we check in with you a little bit later on, things could look a whole lot different. We're gonna get back to our meteorologists with our live storm tracking, as this has just been progressing throughout the hours. Melinda and Amin, you're in the studio there. You're tracking these storms. It's really interesting to see Mark go from the severe weather to now all of a sudden sunshine we saw behind him. He's wearing sunglasses. Can you elaborate more on why that's happening right now?
So basically what's happening is we're getting some clearing in between the two rounds of the storms. Now, we were talking offline that clearing is better for storms to make that lift, generate itself. When we have cloud cover, it's hard to get that instability because warm air likes to rise, and when you have cloud cover, it can't really do so. When you have sunshine and clear skies, it can do so, and that's what we're potentially going to be seeing as that next round pushes through. I just wanted to highlight some of the temperatures here currently. So Peterborough, we're at 27 degrees, Hamilton 20. You can also see in these darker colors closer to the shores of Lake Huron and Georgian Bay, it's a bit more on the greener side. So a bit of a cool down is starting to already happen. A bit of a relief from the overall humidity too. Now, when it comes to some of the ingredients, this is a major one. We need the warmer temperatures. We need the instability. The warm front, that was a trigger for our storms earlier today, what we saw. Now, the cold front behind it, that's the trigger for those storms ongoing stateside that are in the state of Indiana, and it will continue to track its way eastward, pushing into parts of Ohio and Michigan rather, as we head into the next couple of hours, and then we'll slowly see it migrate itself over southern Ontario. That's where Mark's headed to get into place to see these storms down across western Ontario later on tonight.
Yeah, you can see that yellow on the map. We do have a severe thunderstorm watch in place across extreme southwestern portions of the province, and it's the same line of thunderstorms that's expected to potentially make its way across southwestern portions of the province. So Windsor all the way to London, that's where you are under the severe thunderstorm watch here. And let's take a look at the future radar. Yeah, we're continuing to see some heavier downpours that's slowly making its way on eastwards. We see that clearing on the back end, as Melinda mentioned, so temperatures a little bit on the cooler side. But really what to help develop these thunderstorms is going to be that clearing, that lift, as well as that moisture here. And we could see through late this evening into the overnight, we could expect those line of storms to make its way through. But notice as it continues to make its way across the GTA starts to fizzle out a little bit. And right behind that, we could see a little bit of lingering showers through the day on Thursday, some breezy conditions, as well as temperatures right around the seasonal side. But nonetheless, we're looking at some non-severe thunderstorms across Quebec through the day today. But Thursday is expected to be the more severe aspect of this. The same low pressure system is expected to make its way across eastward, and we could see that severe likely across the eastern township south of the St. Lawrence, just along the cold front, but the cold front rather, that will be really kicking off that instability as well as localized flooding. So heavy downpours just north of the St. Lawrence could be potential with this, and that instability is possible. So this is how much rain that we could be looking at through Thursday, especially those oranges and those reds that you see. That's rain well between 50 to 75 millimeters. So that's a lot to contend with.
All right, Victoria, do we have time to cover the prairies, or is it back to you?
Let's head back to me. We have Lauren out in the field, who every time we see Lauren, she's had a new piece of equipment, whether that be her raincoat, an umbrella, and now we see Lauren with her sunglasses on, very similar to what Mark Robinson's experiencing. It seems like you have a little bit of a clearing there, Lauren.
Well, no, actually, I just heard that Mark was wearing sunglasses and I got jealous. So I'm going to take them off now. That was just a gag. It's still raining a lot here, and I should probably get my umbrella back for the next hit, but it's not raining as hard as it was when I spoke to you last. We are seeing traffic really starting to slow to a halt now on the Highway 400. I think that motorists are starting to observe the conditions for themselves and really slowing down. As we discussed earlier, it can be terrifying to drive when there's water ponding on the roads and all of that water is getting splashed up onto your dashboard. So I think that, as you can see, they are going pretty slowly now. The sky did have clouds in it earlier, and now it seems like a opaque gray haze. So I don't know if that means we're in the middle right now. The meteorologists could tell me, I'm sure, where exactly the storm is tracking, but it's wet. It's definitely heavy rain. And we did see some thunder earlier and a bit of lightning.
Lauren, you definitely fooled me with those sunglasses, so that was a good little prank there that you pulled on me. But yes, I can hear the rain. Now I can hear it. It all makes sense. It has been ongoing rain where you are, which is where we could see the potential for localized flooding. What is your game plan for the rest of this evening? Were you sticking around here?
We're going to be sticking around here for a while. We're going to rely on our expert meteorologists to tell us where to head, where the storm is tracking. So depending on what happens within the city of Toronto, we might head there to see if there's some localized flooding that is potentially expected. That could be disastrous for areas like the Lakeshore, the Don Valley Parkway. We've seen in the past when those areas do get flooded, it can be a multi-day cleanup operation with cars being stranded in those pools of water. So I would definitely not advise anyone to go out right now driving around. Pretty much anywhere in southern Ontario is just not great weather for it.
All right, thank you so much, Lauren. Stay dry, stay safe, and don't fool me again with those sunglasses. All right, so it's not just southern Ontario that we've been monitoring the ongoing thunderstorm potential, but it's also across the west coast, Alberta, southern portions of Saskatchewan, southern Manitoba, as well as parts of British Columbia as well. Meteorologists Melinda and Amin-Deep, I think we should just start dive into a little bit more of the west coast here, just in case people have some questions as we head into the evening hours.
The Prairies, we do have a few more severe thunderstorm warnings that have popped up across the region, just north in northern Alberta and as well in southern sections of Manitoba. But this is a widespread look here at what we're seeing throughout the day today. Lots of watches across the west. We've got a few warnings too. We're going to continue to monitor those. Now we'll zoom in across parts of Alberta, just east of Edmonton, where that line of storms is continuing to make its way east. So we're seeing now, it was a few cells becoming a little bit of a messy line moving through, but it is pushing some heavy rainfall into Wainwright as well. Lloydminster, be on the lookout for some of this rain pushing through because it looks like it's tracking in a bit of an eastern, northeastern direction as well. So we're tracking that one there. Down towards the south, this one just missed Calgary. You may have had like a little bit of rainfall from this system, but the one towards the east, that warning has now dropped for that cell. So it looks like it had some of the criteria and then it once dropped off. But we're still watching the one in Crossville, Airdrie as well, and now it's continuing to track its way east. So we're seeing some of those warnings make their way eastward too. Up towards the north, I believe, yes, just Marina here, Clear Prairie, a bit of a warning hint Hines Creek too. So this cluster of storms looks like it's pretty much on the stationary side, so we could be seeing a bit of rainfall there as well. And then last but not least, this is the next one we're tracking. We talked about this earlier, and here we have it. It's just a little bit west of Dauphin, a little bit on the border there, so just northeast rather of Russell and north of Rossburn is where we're seeing that next main cell push through. But we're going to be tracking these throughout the day Wednesday.
Yeah, last time we looked at the update, we didn't have a warning in place across the watch outline that we had in southern Saskatchewan to Manitoba. So one of those cells have been warmed, and we've been looking at two main areas, central Alberta as well as southern portions of the Prairie provinces, and that severe possible extends well over, all thanks to this cold front that's slowly sinking down south. So it's bringing a little bit of instability. You can even see through the overnight across central Alberta. We could see a little bit of rumbles of thunder, but that same threat of thunderstorms continues once again on Thursday. But as we head through the weekend, Friday into Sunday, we're tracking substantial rain. Take a look across areas of southern Alberta to central Saskatchewan. We could be looking at rainfall totals well between 50 to 75 millimeters of rain, which is good for the agriculture as well as the fire danger rating. But the main focus across the east is continuing to be that active weather. That same low that's moving across Ontario is expected to arrive to Quebec as we head into Thursday. So that instability is prominent there as well as that same humid air mass. So localized flooding is going to be something to contend with as we head through the day tomorrow.
All right, we'll jump back in and take another look at what's ongoing. So we're seeing some moderate rainfall along the 401, 400 as well, up towards Newmarket, Etobicoke, and a little bit more towards the east. So it looks like areas of downtown Toronto, you will be seeing some heavier rainfall, but it looks like it's starting to make its way over Lake Ontario, which is good news. So parts of the Gardiner, yes, I can definitely see that there is slowdowns on those regions. Of course, it's rush hour, but with the heavy rainfall, a lot of people are taking their time out on the road. Make sure you're keeping your distance as well from the car in front of you, and you have your windshield wipers going because of the rain. Areas like Caledonia, it's been quite interesting. These were one of the first regions today when we were tracking this that had a few cells on it and it just kept back building on itself. So far, I believe we've seen around 80 millimeters of rainfall. This same cell is continuing to bring in that rain too. And then behind it, though, this one here over Hagersville and Waterford, it's tracking in that same direction. So I wouldn't be surprised by the end of today if Caledonia sees over 100 millimeters of rainfall in that locality too. We have about 20 minutes left of our live stream, so I'll quickly jump over to what we are going to continue to track as we head into the remainder of our day today.
Yeah, we're going to see the second round of thunderstorms push in late this evening into the overnight. So this is where we have that severe likely painted, as well as that thunderstorm watch that we have across southwestern Ontario. And this is all due to that system that we're tracking across the U.S. Now you can really see it's a line of storms. It's quite fast moving, and it's also have produced some tornado warnings stateside. So we're expecting this line of storms to make its way across southwestern Ontario later this evening. So it really just depends on the clearing that we get as well as that instability to bring those parameters in place. But again, strong winds, large hail, as well as heavy downpours are going to be quite the threat with this as it continues to move on eastward.
Yeah, this is a current look here, and then you can see parts of Michigan has severe thunderstorm watches in place. So this is going to move through. I wouldn't be surprised if the tornado watches extend into those regions as well. And then we are going to continue to track that, making its way into on parts of Ontario as we head into the later half of the evening. And I'll quickly just time it out here before we head over back to Victoria. So as we head around 7, 8, 9 p.m. in that hour, that's where we're going to be tracking that same QLCS system making its way over parts of Windsor, southwestern Ontario, areas like Wallaceburg as well. This is where we're tracking the more severe threat, and of course 1 or 2 tornadoes are possible with this. You can see it on this model, it's showing the darker oranges on this purples rather. So that means we could be looking at quite a bit of hail and of course very heavy downpours with this. This will continue to track well over into the GTA just after the midnight hour, and yes, another round of heavy rainfall, and I can definitely we see lots of lightning on this system as well. By early Thursday, majority of that rain pushes through. Scattered showers are possible as well, Victoria, but the wide swath of rain is really in through areas of Cottage Country, the Nickel Belt, and of course, like Amin said, in through areas of Quebec.
Thank you so much. Now, these type of storms, fueled by hot, humid, unstable air masses, they can develop quite rapidly and lead to sudden changes in conditions. Somebody who has experienced already today these sudden changes in conditions is our storm hunter, Mark Robinson. Now, Mark, you were in strong winds, you were in heavy rains that even broke your umbrella earlier today. Now, behind you, it looks like stunning conditions. You have sunglasses on. What's going on there?
There's storms today? I don't, what are you talking about? I mean, no, I kid. I mean, this is the changeable conditions that we've been dealing with all day long. Now, it looks beautiful. I'm gonna put the sunscreen on, but what I wanna point out is something in the background. And you can see that storm way off in the distance. Really quite an interesting storm, because what we're seeing is that main updraft, but look at the way it sort of comes out like this. If you sort of follow it up and then it sort of does that, that is the anvil. That's actually a bit of a back shear, what we call back sheared anvil over there. These storms are sitting out over top of Lake Erie right now, and that tells me that this atmosphere is just primed for very rapid upwards motion, very quick storm essentially storm formation. So all of these things in place to produce storms like that one back there. Now, as I said, that one is out over the lake, so that one's really not going to have much of an effect except for people that are out and about on the lakes. But what that does say is that when that line coming out of the U.S., coming out of Michigan, begins to make its way into southern Ontario, we will have in place all the fuel, all the dynamics, everything to really produce some very strong storms. Having said that, southern Ontario loves to mess with me, and I've seen more than once where the storms come right up to the border and they haven't, I don't know, got their passports and it dies just on the other side of the border. Don't think that's going to happen this time, just from my own personal experience, but there is always that chance. So we're going to be watching very closely as we get closer to evening.
Yeah, Mark, our live stream here is slowly winding down, but that doesn't mean your coverage stops. Where are you headed later on this evening? What is the timing like on the most severe warned storms that you are going to try to get into the thick of? I can only assume you're going to try to get into the worst of it tonight, right?
Well, what else would you do? I don't understand. No, I mean, don't do what Mark does. That's one thing I'm gonna just throw out there right now. You know, if you are getting these storms towards you, take shelter, let it go past, let me show you what the storms are gonna be like out and about. I've done this a few times. Right now though, probably gonna head down to LaSalle, because I have heard there's some large trees down, and that's from that earlier line that came through, those earlier storms that came through. That's actually where my in-laws live, so I'm gonna go check. I kind of know that area fairly well. So I'm going to check that area and just to see what kind of damage was done there. And then from there, we'll be waiting for those storms to make their way into far southwestern Ontario, or potentially we'll have to go around Lake St. Clair and up to that sort of Wallaceburg, up to Sarnia region. It's all up in the air, as it were.
Thank you so much, Mark. Stay safe out there. We're going to continue checking in with you as the evening progresses today. We could potentially have another live stream later on, or have Mark on here at our Weather Network TV channel, as well as our digital platforms such as our app and our desktop. Make sure you download the Weather Network app. That will also help you be more prepared for any of these storms, as we could help you navigate through some of these storms. And who's here to help us navigate through some of these storms is meteorologist Melinda Singh, as well as meteorologist Amandeep Purwal. Now, we have been seeing plenty of heavy rainfall. I think that's been the biggest topic of conversation. But the weird part is that we saw Mark all of a sudden in these sunny conditions. That's only going to help fuel the storm, though, correct?
You got that right, Victoria. The clearing will help for the potential for storms to sustain itself and make its way in through parts of southwestern Ontario, and that's what we're going to be tracking. Now, I'll quickly take a look at the past 6 hours before we jump into what's coming later on today. Here's a look at the past 6 hours as well. So, Caledonia, you've seen definitely around over 80 millimeters rainfall, and potentially more on the way with what's left of the storms for this afternoon. west of Woodstock, Brantford as well. Areas just north of west of Brampton as well, between Milton and Brampton. Saw a good swath there of heavy rainfall as well. Yeah, we're going to continue to track that, but of course we are looking at what is to come as we head into just after 7-8 p.m.
Yeah, it's a second round of thunderstorms that we're tracking, so frequent lightning is possible, heavy rain, strong winds, as well as the potentiality of seeing 1 or 2 tornadoes. Now, we have the severe thunderstorm watch in place from Windsor to London. Melinda here is just showing you the lightning potential, so through the overnight, don't be surprised if you hear rumbles of thunder as well as frequent lightning. So something to really keep in mind if you have pets or anyone that's a little bit nervous about thunderstorms. Just a little bit of a heads up here, but let's take you through the future radar. You can notice most of these storms are destabilizing it as it continues to move on eastward. So we see that clearing as where we saw Mark in, and that's just a little bit of a tease to what's coming behind, and that's another round of thunderstorms. Most likely we're tracking potentially a line, but it's expected to fizzle out as it slowly tracks its way through the GTA, so not much instability. And then right behind it, as the system moves on eastward, we could be seeing some showers or some rumbles of thunder behind it.
Yep, here's that system that is currently impacting Indiana. A very long stretch extending right over majority of the state. Here it is. I'm just drawing it out here for you. And it's moving in a bit of an eastern direction. So it's going to be pushing over Ohio. It's going to be pushing over Michigan. And of course, it'll be impacting areas across southwestern Ontario as we head later into the day today. So we're watching that around 7, 8, 9 p.m. and then it'll continue as we head into the overnight hours as well. All right, Victoria, back to you.
Helping us navigate through these storms. Our expert meteorologists are live today on the call, making sure that you are better prepared. We've seen already rainfall warnings in many places like Grand Bend to Kitchener, Hamilton, Niagara. These could extend as we progress through the evening. And someone who's in some of these rainfall or heavy rainfall potential is Lauren O'Neill, our video journalist. Lauren, you have your umbrella handy. I think that's very useful at this time as you've been in ongoing rain for at least the past hour or two, yeah?
Yeah, definitely. It's been steady and consistent. Heavy raindrops falling here. I keep thinking that it's slowing down, but it's not. It's just been very, very steady here. Traffic is now, it's very slow behind me on Highway 400 approaching Highway 7, as expected with this kind of weather, but also we're entering the rush hour time zone, so that's also part of it. But it's nice to see people still driving slowly, being careful about not speeding around when the roads are slick. But yeah, I mean, it's getting a little bit less heavy, the rain, but it's still there. It's still steady.
Thank you so much, Lauren. All right, stay safe out there. You're off the hook, at least for now, for this live stream. Stay dry. And that was Lauren O'Neill out there in the rain so that I don't have to be out there in the rain. I am nice and dry here in the studio, but many of our viewers who are outside right now may not be feeling the same as we have ongoing rainfall warnings. We also have the potential for more severe storms as we head through the evening with round 2 that could be on the way in your region. Meteorologists Melinda Singh and Amandeep Purwal, this is the first round that we are currently in the midst of, but we have a second round on the way later this evening, correct?
Yes, we do. Now that is right over parts of Indiana, and it's going to continue to track its way over parts of Ohio and Michigan, and then enter into areas of Ontario. So it is a QLCS storm, which means it's a quasi-linear convective system, and it's a very complex system. And when we have storms like this, we can often see spin-ups along that line, which is why we have been seeing tornado-warned cells along this entire line. So this we will continue to track as we head into the next couple of hours. So after around 7, 8-ish, I want to say, we'll be seeing it make its way over into parts of Windsor. I'll quickly throw on the model here so we can just get a better understanding of what's to come. So this is pushing it, just touching Windsor after 8 o'clock-ish, and into around 8, 9, that's when we'll see more of that heavier rainfall make its way down across southwestern Ontario. This means we'll be looking at very heavy rainfall. Localized flooding is definitely going to be a concern, especially if you didn't see it earlier today. This might be a big hazard for this evening into the overnight hours. We're going to see that hail. It's going to be comprised with lots of lightning too. And of course, because we were seeing the spin-ups earlier in through parts of Indiana and Illinois, along that system, it's still possible. Spin-ups meaning rotating storms, and rotating storms can produce a potential tornado. So that's what we're going to be tracking in, especially as we head into around 8 to the midnight hour, and then we'll slowly see this system make its way over into parts of the GTA as well. But like you mentioned earlier, it's really going to be fizzling out.
Yeah, which is great. It's not really going to be impacting the GTA, but again, frequent lightning, rumbles of thunder, as well as heavy downpours could be the theme. So it's great. It's not going to be impacting the early commute hour. It's most likely just through the overnight. Into the morning, we could see some shower-like activity, but the bulk of the thunderstorms is just expected through later this evening into the overnight. Now, areas painted all the way from Windsor to London, we have a severe thunderstorm watch in place, and this kind of aligns with our severe likely that we painted on our risk map. So we could be seeing the large hail, strong winds, as well as those 1 or 2 tornadoes sticking more towards the southwest portions of the province. But as we go through the GTA, we don't really have a risk of seeing any tornadoes. It's most likely just going to be the heavy downpours as well as potentially some strong winds as we head through Thursday.
Quick look here, the amounts of rainfall we could be expecting through Thursday. Now, we did see quite a bit already. This is just an overall accumulation as well of what we can be expecting. Winds will also be a quick factor before we head back to Victoria. Here's a look at the peak 24 hours. So what has been happening. We've been seeing some stronger gusts down towards Windsor, Sudbury, but really it's going to be behind that cold front. We're looking at some gustier winds Thursday, gusting around 60 to potentially 70, 80 kilometers per hour. So a bit of a windy day as we head into Thursday across Southern Ontario. All right, Victoria, back to you.
Thank you so much. Now, Melinda was explaining some of those watches and warnings that we're producing stateside. We actually have footage of a tornado-warned storm here. This is in central Illinois. This was just moments ago. You can see the tornado in the distance. Somebody who knows a whole lot about tornadoes and the dangers that they can pose is our meteorologist and storm hunter, Mark Robinson. Now, Mark, it doesn't look very ominous behind you, but you've been in dangerous situations of severe weather. This video there, is that what we can expect similar conditions to in this second round that's on its way through Southern Ontario?
Yeah, now keep in mind, we call it funnel cloud unless we can absolutely tell that it's touched down. And once it's actually touched down, you see the actual damage on the ground, and that could mean just a little bit of grass moving. That's enough. Keep in mind, all that a tornado is rotating column of air, nothing more than that. But yes, that is something we're watching. And usually when we see the storms upstream, and when I mean upstream, I mean sort of especially we're talking with the southern area, southwestern part of Ontario. We're talking about what we're seeing in the U.S. So as those storms come towards us, I watch those storms. What are those storms doing? If those storms are producing tornadoes, it's something that we have to watch for if we've still got that same air mass on this side of the border. Now, keep in mind, there is a little bit of a difference. We have some big, giant bodies of water that we call the Great Lakes, and those can sometimes have some big effects on the storms, especially when you have a big cold air mass sitting right over top of the lakes. When those storms encounter that, they can weaken. Sometimes, though, when they hit where the edge of that cold air mass is, over top of the lakes, they can actually get going just a little bit more. That's something we're going to be watching very closely. But either way, those storms that we're seeing down there in Illinois and what we're seeing beginning to come into Michigan, what those are doing is potentially what they're going to be doing when they make it here to southwestern Ontario. And the one thing, though, that we do have is that as it comes into this area, it's going to be getting in right around dark, so that heating, that daytime heating, beginning to die down a bit, so that energy isn't there for the storms. Sometimes, though, at night, and we have had this happen already this year, we can still see that. So it's definitely something, especially if you're living in the area between Windsor and London, be very aware of these storms as they come through tonight. We will be keeping a close eye on them. I will be keeping a very close eye on them as I look up and they roll over top of me.
Mark, it's still early before the sun sets, but once that sun goes down, we could expect plenty of lightning, even rumbles of thunder. In your experience, what is the best practice through nighttime hours? Let's say if you do need to drive at night.
If you need to drive at night, you know what? Honestly, I'm going to say don't. But you know, if you're trying to get to work or something like that, and you have to get there, you know, just take it easy, take it slow. You know, call your boss, say, look, I'm gonna be a bit late, or give yourself that extra time to get there. If you can, and you have to be to work, head out before the storms hit, or wait until the storms go by and then follow along. Most likely, quite often, behind those storms, it's just going to be rain, not going to be too bad. So fingers crossed. You should be okay tonight as these storms move through southwestern Ontario.
All right, Mark, we're winding down to the end of our live stream here, but that doesn't mean we have stopped our coverage. We're going to continue letting our viewers know about any watches and warnings in their area. What can they expect from you this evening, perhaps?
She said something and I couldn't quite hear it.
Oh,
I think check. And then I was like,
I think Mark can't hear me right now. That is okay. We will check in with Mark throughout the evening here at the Weather Network. Yes, it was sunny behind Mark, but Mark is the storm chaser and he's going to head right back into the thick of the storm. Right now, there's a little bit of clearing, but when you see that in your region, that just means that the heat, the humidity, the sunshine really helping to fuel these storms again. We have Mark back. Mark, you have about 1 minute right now to explain to me where you are headed this evening. Because I know you want to be in the thick of the storm tonight.
Yeah, technical issues. It's always fun. Live streams, always great. Yeah, we're headed down towards LaSalle. I'm actually going to I want to go down there and check that area because I have heard some rumors of some damage from those storms that came through earlier. That does tell me that, you know, we've got that same air mass in place. We could see another round of these storms. So I want to be as far southwest as I can be to get the storms during the daylight to see the potential, you know, for a giant shelf cloud, giant gust front, and maybe those spin-ups along the front edge of that line. So definitely something I want to be down there. So the journey continues as I move southwest down towards the Windsor area.
Thank you so much, Mark. Always a pleasure to have you out there. Whenever you see Mark here at the Weather Network and he's in the thick of the storms, I always need to put a disclaimer that he is the professional storm hunter here and do not try anything he does at home. Your best bet tonight is to stay indoors, bunker down, watch a movie, just relax. You certainly don't want to be driving through this. Now, I do want to thank not only our field teams, Mark Robinson and Lauren O'Neill, but also our expert meteorologists here, Melinda Singh and Amandeep Purwell, for your live tracking throughout the duration of this live stream. Thank you everybody for tuning in here, and don't forget to download the Weather Network app. That way you can stay more informed throughout the duration of these storms today.